In our prior segments, we've explored the question of what is prosocial behavior, and who is more likely to help, and whom. Help is more likely to be received by whom. Now we will look at when. When is help most likely to be given? First, when there is not a diffusion of responsibility. In other words, the more others who are around to help, the less responsibility we feel. You might have heard about the famous Kitty Genovese case in New York City in the 60s. Kitty was stabbed on the sidewalk while screaming for help under many floors of open apartment windows. The story goes that no one came to help her or even called the police, and so the perpetrator came back and finished the job. Presumably, everyone thought that someone else would help. Even though some of the facts of that case came into question, there have been many similar examples of diffusion of responsibility that are equally disturbing. For instance, in 2008, a young woman was raped in the hallway of an apartment building in St. Paul, Minnesota. She repeatedly cried for help during the rape, but all of the residents who heard her cries didn't. They all claimed they thought someone else would help her. Based on stories such as these, Darley and Latine tested their theory of the bystander effect. The more people around, the less likely that any one person will help because of a diffusion of responsibility. In their headset and seizure victim study, participants were set up in separate rooms and given headsets. They were told they were assigned to participate in a moderated, confidential group discussion with 1, 3, or 6 other participants in other separate rooms. It did seem like that, but really they were listening to tape voices. One discussant mentioned in passing that he suffered from seizures before tests. He later in the discussion started stuttering badly and asking for help. Participants who believed they were the only one talking to that person were far more likely to interrupt the study, dash out of the room, and try to find help or the victim. Contrast that with when participants believed they were in a group of 6. They either didn't help or it took them significantly longer to do so. Also, we are more likely to help if we interpret a situation to be an emergency. 2 researchers staged an escalating argument in a stairwell involving a woman and an abusive man. They staged it as a domestic situation or not by clearly defining the man as her husband or a stranger. They predicted that domestic violence is less likely to be perceived as an emergency. Sure enough, when the man was believed to be a stranger, help was elicited 3 times faster than when he was believed to be her husband. Sometimes a true emergency is not perceived to be one because everyone looks at everyone else for cues of an emergency. Because they are all waiting for someone else to define it as such, the entire group is paralyzed. This is called pluralistic ignorance. Researchers tested this idea in a rather humorous study called the smoke study. Participants completed a questionnaire in a waiting room, either alone or with Confederates who remained passive. A few minutes later, smoke started entering through a vent. Researchers predicted that participants would take longer to report the smoke when they were there with passive Confederates than when they were alone. When alone, participants reported it within 4 to 6 minutes. When with passive Confederates, participants either never reported it or it took them significantly longer to do so. I have some humorous real footage from this classic study. Let's watch it. So we're starting here with a participant who's alone. Because sees it. Immediately gets up to check it out. I better take my stuff when I go to report this, but maybe there's no time. Better hurry. She reports it right away. Another participant, but she is with passive Confederates. She looks over, clearly notices. Takes time to look around at others. But no one is reacting. Touches her face nervously. Continues with her questionnaire, but hard to concentrate. Keeps looking. Touches her hair. Five minutes go by. She is still checking everybody else, waiting for someone else to say something. Clearly uncomfortable. Having difficulty concentrating. Now we're at 10 minutes. Same thing. And now we are at the 20-minute mark, and the researcher comes in to let them all go. She never reported it. Okay, so when alone, participants reported it, remember, within 4 to 6 minutes. But when with passive others, some participants never reported it, even when the smoke got so thick at times that they had to fan it away in the air in order to see their questionnaire. Also, we are more likely to help when we are not under time pressure. Make sense? In a famous study called the Good Samaritan Study, seminary students were instructed to walk across campus to give a speech. Ironically, a speech regarding the biblical Good Samaritan story. They were either told they were ahead of schedule or running a few minutes late. On the way, they encountered a man, a Confederate, stumped in a doorway, coughing and groaning. The future ministers who thought they were late were significantly less likely to stop and offer help. In fact, a number of these literally stepped over the man as they hurried on their way.